Hello again, and welcome to the sixth in the series of the Spanish Curmudgeon. And I'd like to take up the theme, which is a bit of an extension of my previous talks, which has to deal with social isolation and what that means, what it's origins are, and in particular, what does it mean for society at large, for our socio-cultural situation that we find ourselves in globally and locally. So I explored the role of social media and the internet in increasing this isolation, and I didn't really come to a strong conclusion, except that it's probably a contributing factor. That's not to say that we didn't have loneliness and isolation before the internet. I'm sure it was there, and I think the internet has brought us many gifts, and it has connected us in ways that were not possible prior to its development. However, that often translates to mutual interests like fishing or politics or travel, whatever the enjoyment is, the distraction. And these can be kind of somewhat shallow in nature. So I was trying to drive at true human connection that many of us seem to crave now because we feel very isolated one from another for various reasons, whether it be the way we design our neighborhoods, the internet itself, and maybe the role of commercialism and consumerism in our lives. In particular, how we try to fill this void of loneliness or emptiness with things, with material things. But in this talk, I would like to try to extend this sense of isolation into more of a connection. How do we connect this feeling, and in particular loneliness, with the macro scale? And I was stuck for a while. I wasn't quite sure where to go with this extrapolation until I came across a quote from the historian and political analyst Hannah Arendt, who was briefly detained by the Gestapo, and her family moved out of Germany. And she wrote the famous book called The Origins of Totalitarianism, which I highly recommend that you read, given what's going on in the world today, because there are signs that it is growing and even thriving in many countries in the world today. So again, how does loneliness translate into our society? How does it filter into our relations with each other and into the economy and politics and communication? So I came across this quote from Hannah Arendt, and I think it sheds some light on this connection, on this extrapolation. And she says, "What prepares men for totalitarian domination in the non-totalitarian world is the fact that loneliness, once a borderline experience, usually suffered in certain marginal social conditions like old age, has become an everyday experience." And this was written in 1951, well before the internet, well before computers. But I think it's still germane because it provides this thread of connection between us as individuals and what we're feeling between our ears, and how we react to our fellow human beings, and how we react culturally, socially, politically in this world. So I find it very intriguing that this connection was made so long ago. And it kind of opened my eyes as to why we are seeing the things we are today. Again, I reiterate that what I say is based on my personal experience. I don't want to go beyond that too much, because it gets into borrowing other people's ideas. And I think that's become a big problem in genuine communication, is that our ideas are not our own. Most of them have been instilled by other people, by authority figures, the church, the state, and other people like our parents, for example. Probably the parents had the greatest influence on us, because we're very much like a sponge when we're young, and we absorb a lot of our parents' ideas about doing things. In particularly the emotional realm, because we are quite vulnerable when we are young, and we depend on our parents so much for survival that we can't help but take on a lot of their concepts and their attitudes and opinions. Whether we continue those into later life, or whether we're able to shake them off and find something more relevant to our current adult life, that depends on the person. I suspect a lot of us do not escape that entirely, well, at all. You know, it's let's face it, a lot of us never have any original ideas from the people around us. We just mimic other people, especially now with social media. It's so easy to share a post on the internet that we like, and so we don't really analyze it very much. We don't do sufficient research to find out what the truth is. And I think this has given rise to fake news and a lot of conspiracy theories. Now, some conspiracy theories have turned out to be true. In the 1950s in Nevada, people were saying, there are black jets flying around at night, and we can hear them, we can see them. And people thought they were lunatics. Well, as it turns out, the Air Force did admit eventually that there are such jets. We call them stealth fighters. And eventually the military has released footage of unidentified flying objects. So it's very easy to dismiss conspiracy theories as outlandish, but I think it's worth delving into it a little bit, just to find out if it is really outlandish. And if it is, it probably doesn't take much research to show it to be so. So, returning to the quote by Hannah Arendt, this isolation from each other is, I think, something that leads to a lack of empathy and holding each other at arm's length. And this can lead to other negative or unhealthy emotions. And I do think that fear is the mother of all negative and destructive emotions. And I look at what's going on in my native land in the United States with the current administration, and they stoke these fears. They have been successful in stoking these fears and hate and anger at other people, as it was attributed to Hermann Goering, that if you can somehow focus people's negative emotions and blame externally, outside the country, on Jews in that case, you will be successful in whipping your native people into a frenzy, and they will look the other way when you take away their civil rights. So they were very successful in that, the Nazis were, and Hannah Arendt has a lot to say about how this regime was so successful and ultimately so destructive. So let's look into this a little bit more. As I alluded to in my last talk, we often distance ourselves from our neighbor, and this is reflected in our neighborhoods. We don't seek out our neighbor like we used to. And I'm talking mostly about the U.S. here because that's my base experience, although I've experienced something different here in Europe, which serves as a comparison, a useful comparison for me. But if we don't seek out our neighbor to speak with them and understand what's going on in their lives, what their trajectory has been in life, their parents, how they were brought up, we automatically, I think, because of the nature of our mental functions, we grow a little bit suspicious of the other. And I saw this where I lived in suburban Denver. I had very little contact with my neighbors, and this was brought out once when we had a house fire, and the fire department came and put it out, and only one family came by to check on us, and we call them the hillbillies from Minnesota. They seem to be a little poorer family, a little bit more rustic, and they came and asked after us to see if we were all right. No one else did. No one in a more, shall we say, wealthier with a wealthier social standing, which were many in our neighborhood. And I found this very disheartening, that we don't care about our neighbor. We just want to live our lives and be left alone and pursue our own agenda, whether it be work or watching TV, watching sports, without being bothered by our neighbor. And this is very, very sad and tragic in many ways. And so I think in this space that we leave with a lack of knowledge of our neighbor, it leaves a space for a lack of empathy to come in, and suspicion of our neighbor because we don't know them. And so why do we entertain ourselves with these other things on the internet? And yet many of us now seem to be desiring some kind of connection. We sense it, but we don't know how to go about it. We don't know how to have communion with our neighbors because it's been so long that we've been living this type of urban or suburban lifestyle. It's been lost to the past, it seems, and many people romanticize the past, the small town America, where people greeted each other in the street and they all knew each other and helped each other if someone had an emergency or a calamity in the family. And and people offered help in those situations. So if we keep going on like this, and this condition becomes malignant, it gets so bad that we allow bad things to happen to our neighbor because we think it will never happen to us. And that's how we get the current administration in the United States, where we think we need to remove those other people, the bad people. Sometimes it's very amorphous as to what those people are, such as immigrants. And we can cast blame on them for all our problems. This is a very basic human malady, and it's gone on maybe thousands of years. The inability to look into ourselves, look within, and see where these negative emotions and the fear come from. Instead, it's much easier to cast blame on someone else. And therefore, it becomes so bad in our society, this ignorance and this lack of empathy, that we have people being abducted on the street with people in masks. This is really horrifying, and I thought it would never happen in my country, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Well, that old adage is being tested right now, and the enemy is not from without, it's from within. And this was predicted by many pundits in the past, so I don't think we should be surprised. But I am surprised that it has happened so quickly in the United States. And I think the apathetic people have allowed it to happen. Those people maybe who don't have outward ill will to their fellow citizens, but they don't care enough to do something about it. They don't want to put themselves on the line. This used to be manifested in places like New York, in which people were beaten on the street, mugged, and people would just stand by, and no one would do anything. No one would put themselves at risk to help out the victim. Well, if this keeps going on, then no one is safe. There are people who are coming to the United States and being detained, and for very little reason. And so if they can do it to them, they can do it to you and to me. So how do we reverse course? It's a very difficult road ahead, I think, because it's gone very far. I see signs that people are resisting, and I think I do have some hope, but it's going to be a long haul, and it's going to be a lot of difficulties, and some people are going to get hurt, and some people are going to get killed. I think as we've seen from history, in dictatorships, people lose their lives when they throw themselves under the dictatorial train, and they sacrifice themselves heroically to do so. But sometimes that's what it takes in order to wake other people up. So we'll see. I will continue to monitor the situation from over here. I would like to, on some days, I would like to just stop looking over my shoulder at what's going on in the U.S. and just forget about it. But I guess that's just not the way I'm built. It just saddens me greatly for the people that are being hurt by the policies that are being enacted now. And it's not just in the United States. It's everywhere, and here in Europe, I think things are a bit better, and I have to admit that one of the reasons that it's better in Europe is that the United States at one time helped Europe out after World War II with the Marshall Plan and other aid. Well, this aid was not altruistic, but the net result is that we have I think, a very good quality of life here in Europe. And I hope we can maintain that. And I hope the U.S. Is able to turn itself around with people who do have empathy, who do care about their fellow human beings who are suffering. So I'll leave it at that for now, and maybe we can get into some other political and socio-cultural developments in the world today. Until then, ciao for now.